Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another review spoiler discussion for The Old Man on FX. This is episode 6. I have here with me co-lead of TeamJVS, Lucas. What's going on, dude?
Hey, what's going on? Let's get into the shenanigans of this episode here.
Yeah, yeah. What did you think
Okay,
about it?
ah, first thing to start off with is the final. I want to say 10 minutes
Mhm.
when Jeff Bridges decides I'm just gonna kill anybody who stands in my way was amazing. Like again, I think this is the first. I feel like it's the first true action really we've seen with his character since the first episode.
Yeah, since the first 2 episodes, he hasn't really done
Yeah.
much.
So that whole setup with him and Zoe was great.
Yeah,
As you see, it's all in pursuit of getting his daughter and him understanding what that meant, along with her stuff with Harold. Like Angela and Harold in this episode were great. Just off of, and theirs were great just off of a conversation.
yeah.
Just off a basic conversation. Her kind of giving up herself to save him.
She did. She really
Like
did.
that also was amazing. Like this is I was saying then this is what you want from the show. You'd love to see that one, the final acknowledgement, like when she says, both of my fathers
She
know
did.
what's going
She
on
did.
here. And that's the play you want. And then by the end of the episode, you get it felt like a scene out of the Dark Knight. He lands on a helicopter at the bridge and he's like, he's taking her and we're going to get her. Like that there. That if I had a little thug tear.
Yeah, it was interesting because the setup and the build up for how this episode ends was probably one of the best that they've done in the season so far.
Mhm.
Because with Zoe and Chase, like the thing about it is that it's this cat and mouse versus
Mhm.
conversation because she knows how to kind of probe him emotionally, but she don't really know what this man's truly capable of, and she's kind of
Yeah.
scared of him at the same time. But she's playing the odds, and every single small little moment she's having conversation, he's like Sinead trying to teach her something like, "Oh, here you go. Here's a metaphor for this." She's like, "That don't make any sense. You're never gonna come back the same." It's like, yeah, I'm not gonna come back the same. Do you get it? Like small little nuggets like that, and even I mean, it kind of happened a little bit last episode when he gave up the dogs and he was getting emotional, and she picked up on it. But
Mhm.
even more so in this one because he woke up from a nightmare before he was seeing the older version of his wife. Now he's seeing the younger version of his wife, and it's building up to something else that I don't really know where it's going.
Mhm.
Um, but when they got to the little party event, and he kind of was like, "Look, I need you to stay here. If something looks crazy, get out of there," And she kind of listened, but it was kind of like she was put in a very interesting situation where she could have got herself out, but then she's not stupid enough to kind of put herself in more danger by trying to follow this other person. So it's I love the build up. I love the cat and mouse
Mhm.
between Zoe and Chase because I don't know where it ends. I really don't. Like I feel like part of him is kind of recreating the the
His
craziness
relationship.
that built up his relationship.
Mhm.
Because the more we're starting to see these flashbacks, the more we start to understand, his I don't even know if she really was his wife. I don't know if when they got married later on in the States, if she still wasn't doing stuff on the side. I haven't because she seems like the most
She's a
insane
mystery.
character. Right.
Yeah. She's a complete mystery. And I think was it like a minor flashback with him in this episode
Mm-hmm.
with her where but it's old him
Yep.
and it's young her.
Mm.
And like again, that sets up just to let you know just how intriguing of a character this is.
Yeah.
Like as much as we've seen her over these 6 episodes, we still don't know her full purpose of anything. And I
Right.
think that's what's throwing it off more than anything is that we don't know her purpose. So we don't know what she's doing. We don't understand whose side she's actually on. It
Mhm.
kind of throws everything in for a loop because the whole time she was playing both sides.
Dude, she playing three different sides because we thought initially this guy sent her out. He was like, "Oh, you thought
Ye-
I sent her? No, I thought I
Yep.
was in love with this woman,
Hey,
and she used me and put me in a situation where I had to bite the bone, and it was just fascinating because he kind of, betrayed and double crossed Chase, but he also left a good amount of information that Chase, I felt for the very first time, kind of like how Angela was emotionally compromised by somebody talking about her mother.
mm-hmm.
Chase started getting emotionally compromised listening to the cracks in his
Yes.
wife that he thought he really knew. And he realizing more and more he doesn't. Um, and it's just fascinating to see how that bleeds over into um, the flashbacks, because the flashback showed, how Chase let the guy go because of the wife.
Mm-hmm.
But what we didn't know is that Hamazad put two and two together. It was like, he gave that metaphor, about the dream that he was having, and then
Mm-hmm.
how, when he woke up, his wife wasn't there, and then miraculously this guy's gone. But he was like, my wife couldn't do that because she know what that would mean. It's just fascinating. It's always a cat and mouse
Mm-hmm.
situation that's always going, and you don't know who's the wolf, you don't know who's the innocent bystander, or if there is any innocent people at this point. But I think that the best to me was seeing Harold emotionally compromised, and
Mm-hmm.
having that real moment with her, because he said it. He's like, "Look, man, you, I really should get rid of you." And you are a terrorist and you are breaking every single law I know, but you're my daughter, basically. Like I can't
Or,
quit you, kind of thing.
or the conversation between Harold and the old man in this episode.
Mm,
Of like, why did you do this?
right.
And the reason given is again is what throws this off so much because at first they seem like they're pitted enemies. The more this goes on, it seems like they're just brothers who fell out with one another.
That's exactly what it seems like,
Yeah, and then you have this elder father figure in between them two.
which is so weird. That dude is
But
actually scarier than anybody else I've seen so
because
far.
while playing the role of the father figure, he's willing to sacrifice whoever he has to if it reaches the end goal he thinks is justified.
Yep.
When he tells her basically, no, just make her disappear. Like, as long as she's not there, you can blame her for everything, and you'll be perfectly fine.
That joke was
So when
crazy
they're
how he
going back
said
and
it.
forth, and she thinks it's the company trying to make her do this, and he lets her know, like, no, it's not. Like, he's telling me to do this to you, and I told him to get out my house. But her having that full understanding, like, but if this doesn't happen, like, you'll never have peace. You'll be blamed for everything. And in the end, she sacrifices herself to save him.
She did.
But then at the same time, then he goes to get Dan to rescue her. Like it's leaving. It's a crazy show. And I
Yeah.
think as we're getting closer to the conclusion of it, we're seeing the craziness come out a little bit more because we're seeing and understanding the relationship more between Dan and Harold.
Right.
And even though it focuses a lot on Dan and his wife, it focuses a lot on Dan and his daughter, it focuses on Harold and the same daughter. We got to realize the key relationship here is Dan and Harold's.
Yeah.
Everything else falls by the wayside. They are the key relationship in this show. And how will
True.
they deal with everything going on with their daughter?
Right. And this is the weird thing about how this all pans out. So the security detail and the people that kind of come in on the boats and stuff like that, are those
Hmm.
Harold's people, or
I
are
just
those?
assumed they. I just assumed they were the company's people.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense, because I was like, I don't know what links Harold is willing to go to make sure that that, well, not Zoe, but Angela is protected. And
Mm-hmm.
we already know what Dan is willing to do to get anybody that touches his daughter. Like as a matter of fact, even the way that that confrontation happened, like he was like, "Where's my daughter? I know she was with you. Where is she?"
Mm-hmm.
And Harold didn't spend no time wasting. Like, look, they got her, but we're gonna get her. And that's all Dan needed to hear because he's like, "All right, bet. There's no truce. We're just going for blood. Got it. Okay, cool." I don't know what happens in the next episode. I really want to watch the next episode. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Well, I guess it's just gonna. Is this the last episode? Is 7
Nah,
or 8?
we got 8, I think, total.
Oh,
Um,
okay. So the next episode is the huge explosive episode because that's normally what you get before you get to the finale, and I
yeah,
think that's going to explain a little bit more of the relationship with them two and the old man. It's going to hopefully put more into focus his wife and
yeah,
exactly what she was doing because that's
yeah.
still not in focus a lot. We had the slightest idea what she was doing and what she was setting up, and I think in this episode we'll get a clear understanding of it.
So, question: how did the wife die exactly?
I don't know.
Because they kept on saying she had Alzheimer's or
That's it. That's all
dementia,
they came with. Dementia, I think it was.
and then they showed the bathroom scene, and it looked like she might have died. But I'm like, did she commit suicide? Did she
But yeah,
fall? Like,
they didn't give us a clear picture of exactly how,
right? Because
or
the
if she even died there.
That's what I'm saying. Like, because the flashback he showed, I swore that looked like his wife hanging, but then there was somebody next to her, and I was like, all these feel like metaphors. It doesn't seem like a clear ending to the
To
wife
the
yet.
yeah, I mean
So
that's where we're stuck at, trying to figure out exactly what happens to her as we move forward. Again, this episode is kind of more straightforward than the rest of them.
mhm.
This is really first it built up as a Harold Angela episode, and them getting out everything, him getting out all his grievances against her, him still feeling betrayed by her, him not understanding if he can trust her, and then it flipped a little bit to Chase and Zoe.
Yep.
And then we get the backlog, and you're like, okay, so all of these storylines are now attempting to run into one another. But
Yeah.
this is such a streamlined episode. It doesn't leave much for discussion of what happened in the episode as much as it is what's going to happen now.
Hmm.
And then that's where we're stuck at the net. Like, okay, so we did Harold and get Angela's gone technically, but someone else has her. The old man has her, but and the whole time, the name of the show is The Old Man. How many
Right.
people thought that old man was Jeff Bridges?
Right. Right. That's real. That's real. And it would actually make more sense too, because he's the thing that's the connective tissue that started all this.
Mm-hmm.
He's the in between of everything. Um, Heck, he might have. No, man, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. I thought one of the most interesting conversations on the train with Harold and Angela was when he was asking her about how much contact you've had with your dad physically.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I didn't see that man since 2012. She's like,
Yeah.
so
He was
y'all
just a
resorted
voice.
your relationship to just a voice and a hope? And she was like, she was offended because she's like, that don't change anything for me. I know what he sacrificed for me. And he said something. Her response was interesting, but I don't think she could counter it. He was like, what happens with all you have left is just sacrifices? Like, what's the substance kind of thing?
It's a heck of a question to ask somebody because that leaves so much space for nuance and leaves you to wonder the little things that did not happen. In the end, is it worth it just because he sacrificed it? Like, what makes it worth it then? And that's what she's left with. And keep in mind, this is a question being asked by someone who she looks at as her other father.
Right. That's the
So
crazy
it's
thing.
weight that goes behind him asking her something of that nature.
Yeah, it's a lot of weight. It's a lot of weight of like where does she go with this? And even the old man said, I mean, we don't gotta kill her. She just gotta deny who she is, kind of thing.
Which
But
that's something she's not willing to do.
not at all. Not at all. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know where this goes from this point. I really don't. But I'm excited. This is a really
Well,
good.
Again, we
springboard
see them
episode.
at the shootout at the end as Chase went to get more answers and ended up killing more people instead. I love the setup of the woman approaching Zoe, knowing who she was, and then
Oh
lying about
yeah.
getting her out as all for setup to see what she would do.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
Like
yeah.
it's interesting to see exactly where we're going to move forward from this part of it. Because again, we are close to the conclusion of this first season, and it's already been renewed for a second.
Yeah.
So we don't necessarily know exactly who may make it, who may not make it, but what we do have an understanding is they're going to get their daughter.
Right.
That's the best way to put it. That's the clear understanding. They're going to go get their daughter and find out exactly what's going on here.
Do you think the daughter makes it out of the first season?
I don't know, because she has become a huge liability. But to me, if she doesn't make it out of the first season, neither does Chase. I think he would kill anything around him at that point.
Yeah, he would. He really would. Everybody would catch it.
Yeah.
But to be fair, though, Harold would probably do the same thing. He'd probably let everybody burn. Like, I think the
Most
thing
likely.
about Harold that makes him so dangerous is that he can sink a lot of ships with his mind. Like, that man tactically is very menacing.
Yes.
So we'll see what happens, man. I love this episode, though.
I mean, because again, straightforward episode. That's what kind you need, because the last episode was a more heavy episode. But here we get to the point of, okay, time to ramp up the action so you see what this man can do.
Right. So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell button. We've got a lot of content coming. We just released our review for Miss Marvel finale. We've got Paper Girls coming up. We've got San Diego Comic-Con coming up next week.
You still got Tribeca stuff coming this week and next week. Yeah, don't forget about it. Ain't like we don't have a multitude of movie reviews lined up for Tribeca.
Goodness gracious, great balls.
And then we have Fifth soon coming up.
Anyway, we're gonna go.
The look was priceless. Like,
y'all take care.
Why did you bring that up? I didn't want to think about it.
You just wanted to make me suffer, you guys. All right, peace out. What?
Oh, you brought us back. Oh, man. I was gonna name more festivals we got lined up. We got Fantastic Fest, because I got an email about that today, and that's in August. Oh no, Fantasia Fest, which was another festival we have coming. Like we have lots of content coming. Just stay tuned. Peace, people.
Filing out the top of the
I can see the skyline, 50 mile radius on my timeline.